Hi everyone, so this is Snowy. He is a miniature poodle and he is in for a full groom today. He is looking super matted, not everywhere, but you can see in his ear there. His back's not looking too bad, but then you go down and it's you know, it's super matted. So he is unfortunately gonna have to have a shave off today. He is a bit damp because he's just been for a walk, but it doesn't matter. So I am going to do a pre-clip before the bath, which gets off most of that matting, because if we start washing, shampooing and drying the coat, it is just gonna, the mat's gonna get even tighter. So we want to get that off before the bath really. I'm going to start with a 5, see how we go. What a good boy. I know, my friend. Let me put this down so people can see. Good boy. Start with a 5. It's not going to go through when we get to the legs, but sometimes they puff up after the bath, so then we might be able to do a longer coat. But you don't want to be dragging through the coat too much. If it's not going through that easy, I am going to go straight, I'm going to go straight to 7, because if you start dragging through the coat, you're at risk of blowing your hair. You're at risk of you know, damaging the coat, especially damaging the skin and cutting the skin, especially with these poodles, because they've got such fine, thin skin. You don't want to be, it looks a bit suspicious, that looks a little bit like Fleeder. Yeah, you don't want to be tugging into the skin too much, so. Getting it off, starting afresh, and then he can get to the length that he wants. It's been a while since his last appointment because I was pretty booked up and they didn't book in advance, so yeah, he's definitely overdue. Good boy, Snow. Just go in little bit by little bit. Good boy. I'm just going to get the bin because I'm not convinced that he doesn't have fleas, but we'll soon find out. Can't see any yet. There's a few bits that could be flea dirt, but it could also be dirt because he is quite dirty. But by putting the hair straight in the bin, it means that if he has got fleas, it's reducing the chance of it spreading to the rest of the pod and then to the other dogs. So good boy. It's super tight in there. So with a dog like this, I'd recommend to be coming in every 6 to 8 weeks. More towards the 6 weeks for him, I'd say, just to keep on top of the coat, because poodles have such fine fur where they've got the wool coat that it's, if you're not keeping on top of the brushing, then it's just a horrible coat to maintain really, because it's just, yeah, gets super matted super easily. Good boy, you're doing so good. So when you're clipping a matted coat, the blade will often get hotter than it would do if you were clipping a normal coat, because it's having to work harder to get through the coat. So you want to make sure that it's not getting too hot and switching out the blades if it's starting to feel a bit warm. Good boy. The tail's quite mad as well. It's going to have to go, I'm afraid, Snowy. So he is still a full male, so we've got to be careful with that. Don't want to go chopping anything off. Good boy. You can see how it's just coming off, you know. It should be coming off single hairs, but it's coming off all as one, so. Good boy. Again, not digging into it, just doing it nice and slowly and gently, especially on these bits because they're such thin coats. I might have to go down to a 10 there just because he is so tiny out the snow. Especially with a 7, because a 7 is so easy to catch a coat because it has got those bigger teeth. So I am going to go down to a 10 for the legs. Put that one to cool down on the marble plate. Good boy. Lift him up to do his belly. See all that there, very matted, so just going in at the top, being careful. That's going sideways because these guys do have a little, like a little flap between there, which is quite easily cut if you're not careful. Good boy. If you're going in sideways, you're not going straight into the skin. Oh, you're going to push so much better, Snow. Good boy. Very carefully around here. This is why when you get owners say, I'm very lucky, I've got very lovely customers, and no one's ever said this to me personally, but when you get people online saying, oh, my groomers just clipped the dog because it was easier. No. It's so much more difficult to clip a dog down, to shave a dog down, because you've got to think about being careful because it's easy to cut the skin, it's more wear and tear to your blades, it's more wear and tear for you, it's stressful for the dog. We don't want to shave a dog down. We don't. We'd like a dog to stay nice and fluffy and all lovely, but it's just not possible if owners are struggling with coats. So sometimes the best thing is to start again, and then you can get to a length that they like as well. So these owners were very understanding. I always phone and pre-warn when the dog's gonna have to be shaved, just so it's not so much of a shock when they come back. And I do charge extra as well, so it'd be an extra £10 for him today because he is matted, just to cover, as I said, the wear and tear, and because it often takes longer than it would do normally. Good boy. I know. Oh, you're manky. Need a bath, my friend. Checking the blade so it's not hot, so that's good. Very carefully. Good boy. So there'd be no chance of unmatting this coat anyway, dematting the coat. It's so tight and there's so much of it. If it was just the ears, I may demat just because they're at the top, just for a little bit. But under the animal welfare act, you don't want to cause any dog unnecessary sort of stress and pain, and so I mean I will only demat 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then, you know, we call it quits then after the shave, just because it's not nice for the dog. It's not nice for us to see the dog, you know, especially if the dog's stressed and not enjoying it. Very careful in the armpits. Good boy, I know. Yuck. So I'm going to take that towel down. That's the issue, when all the hair is wet, sticks to you. What a good boy. I'm not seeing any further signs of fleas, so that's good. I think we've dodged that bullet. Pulling the skin tight so that it doesn't start hooking up. I know, good boy. You're doing so good, Snow. I'm going to go in with a 10 there. Good boy, I know. A good boy. So we call this a little lion's tail, so I'm going to have to take it down further because you can see that matting in there. It's not the worst matting of the tail I've ever seen. On him as well, he's had a lot worse matting in the past on the tail, but you can't brush that out. And it'd be really painful if you tried. Good boy, Snowy. I know. Stay there. Gotta get it, I'm afraid. I feel so much better. I know, they already got it. I know. Good boy. So I'm not digging, I'm just going a little bit and then sort of lifting off. Good boy, Snowy. So you want to get your dog used to the grooming process as quick as possible, like as soon as possible when it comes to brushing at home, because as soon as they come here, obviously they've got to put up with brushing. Look at that, you can see that you can't brush that out. And yeah, so if you're doing the brushing at home, it saves the dog so much stress when they come in for a groom, because they'll be used to it and they shouldn't be matted if you're brushing properly. So in order to brush properly, you need a slicker brush, and then you need a metal comb, and you want to go through the coat with the slicker brush bit by bit and then check it with the comb, because if it is matted, the comb will tell you. If you're brushing over the coat, you can sort of see here, I'm not dematting him, it's not hurting him, but if you brush over the very top of the coat, it looks like he's brushed out a bit more, but then you lift the coat up and that's not brushed at all, so you really need to get right down to the skin. Good boy, Snowy. So I'm in with a 10 blade now for the legs again, just because they are that much more matted and it's a lot safer. I know. Good boy. So to get inside the leg, come up and under, like as if you were doing the hygiene area. Good boy. Not lifting it too high, especially with these little dogs, because they're so fragile. Good boy. Sit that way a bit. Good boy. So you shouldn't have to use any blade that's shorter than a 10. Sometimes you can get some super matted dogs where I have had to 15 a dog once because it was super matted, but that wasn't all over, that was only in sort of places. But a 10 should really be all you're having to go to. Obviously you're going to get really matted dogs, but as long as you can find sort of a entrance spot into the coat, normally you'll be alright with a 10. Good boy. Good boy. I know. So I am going backwards, but I'm not pressing too hard, so it's still going to take it to roughly the same length because I'm not pressing it too hard. Sometimes it's just easier to get it that way. Look how tiny you are, eh? Didn't need a coat. Sometimes it's easier to come from the other side to get the inside of that leg. It's just judging really what the dog's like, what the dog lets you do, stuff like that. So coming in, obviously, like I said, he's a full male, so coming in either side there, because that's often where they map. There we go. Good boy. Lifting him back up again. Good boy. You can see there just that flap of skin. If you're going straight down, you're going to cut that coat. So, well, that's skin. So you just want to go very carefully. In sideways. Good boy. Give me kisses. Good boy. So I'm going to come in then from the side. I know, you've got to stand up for this bit, I'm afraid, and then you can sit down. Good boy. I'm going to slightly stretch out that coat. Not hurting him. Just pin it slightly tighter. Up and under. Right, good boy. So sometimes when the dog's matted, they can get some irritation, and you'll see sort of red blotches on the skin. Sometimes if the matting's that bad, you can see bruising. He is quite lucky he's not got any of that I can see at the moment. I will wash him in some sensitive shampoo. I always do that for matted dogs because it just makes sure that you know, it's giving them a nice bit of soothing after having the matting. Good boy. Very careful over the little bit there as it meets the chest, meets like over the shoulder. I know. You don't like your front legs, do you? So I'm just holding up that skin, nice and tight. You can see just how tight it is there. So nice and carefully. Good boy, Snowy. It says I'm not going to look at you. See, I'm not going to look at you. You're a good boy. Oh, you can feel like a new dog. I know. It's not nice for the dog, you know, you're tugging at the skin and tugging at the hair. So you quite often find when the dogs come in the, I know, in the winter, they're normally more matted than the summer because, you know, people have coats on them. When the dog's getting wet and they're rubbing the coat with a towel, that causes the friction, which causes the matting. So it's just, yeah, it's educating the owners how to stop the matting, how to brush properly, to try and prevent the matting, really. Good boy. straight in with the 10 behind the ear, because that is a very sensitive place. Can you see it? Good boy. These ears might have to come on. Yeah. So these ears, you can see, they're matted right at the ear flap, which means we're going to have to, and right at the top there, we're going to take them down. Leave a small top knot, so we've still got that poodle look, but they are going to have to come off, unfortunately. We did have to do this a while ago, but shave the ears off, which is a shame because it does give them a weird look after, but you just got to do what's right for the dog. You can see there where it's catching, so I am going to have to go down to a 10 on the very tips of those ears. Good boy. Good boy. See if we can get through the chest with a 7. Look at your tiny little ear. Oh, my little friend. Good boy. This is obviously where little poodles are obviously very bony around their bony and skinny around the front end, so we've got to be very, well, got to be very careful all over, as you can tell, but definitely when it comes to that. I am just going to go in and shave his face just on that bit. So we're going to, so poodle face from the ear, from that eye corner to the front of the nose. This is a rough cut, so it's not going to be particularly straight, you know, perfect lines at the moment, but we're just getting the rough guide in for when we clip after. It just means you're not wasting soap and time on, you know, hair that's going to come off anyway. I know, good for it. Especially when they don't like their face sort of dry very much. This makes it so much quicker. And it's matted anyway. Oh, good boy. I know you're doing so good. See your eyes now. Careful with the lip. So we're going to come in after the bath and we're going to shave from the ear corner. I'm going to shave a little bit now, but from the ear corner down. So I'm going to shave. It'd be easier to show you when he's clean, but I will show you roughly now. So depends on the dog, but so from the eye corner on the outside this time down to the ear, down that way. And then we are going to go down a little bit more onto the chest, which you're not really going to see because it's going to have to be matted. Taking that short anyway. But normally you'd go to the Adam's apple bit on the male dog, so just about there. Oh, good boy, you're doing good. But I'm going to shave all this off anyway, so. Ooh, I know. So do not follow this if you're doing a proper poodle cut, because it won't be the correct lines. So normally you would stop, you would go down in a triangle to the Adam's apple, back up with the 10, reverse 10 or reverse 15, whatever you're doing. But obviously where his coat is matted, we're taking the body the same length as well. I'm going to go over the 10 here just because it's so much safer. Good boy, just keeping his head still so he doesn't put his head down and then get in the way. Not holding him tight. Oh, good boy. We turn you this way? Yeah, good boy. Get under this ear. very tight in there. Got to be careful when they shake their head. Get those clippers away. Don't want any of that today, my friend. But you can see all that. Should have come off, you know, separate pieces, but it's all come off together, so definitely needed to be taken off. Start afresh. Just to roughly take it off is what we go through. Careful with those ears. I'm literally just taking off a bit so that we don't have to do so much, wash so much in the bath. There is a couple matte bits in there, but we'll see how we go with the bath. Look at you, that's a good look. Need the beard obviously to hold as we're doing the face after the bath, so you don't really want to take that off before, because it'll make it so much easier if you have it there. He's got some quite bad eye matting, but when we're in the bath we'll give that a good scrub. We'll come up underneath. So we've got most of the beard off, but hold his nose there so he's not getting sticking his tongue out. Good boy. Right. I'm going to pop him in the bath. It's a good look with a little goatee. And then, yeah, pop him in the bath. And then we'll re-clip after just to get all these little loose ends then. Good boy. So a bit of blueberry facial, tear-free. It's also whitening, so it'll help to loosen these bits and to try and get some of that staining away. You can use it on a dry coat, leave it on for 5 minutes if the dog will accept that. So just pulling some of that out. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. What a good boy. So he's not a massive fan of the dryer, I know, around his face. So I'm just going to go in and just rub the muzzle carefully because he has got some wobbly teeth and we don't want to go jarring those around. Good boy. So now that his coat is so short, I am going to be using the slightly softer slicker. So it's more like a puppy slicker, just so it's not dragging against the skin and causing slicker rash. So I won't need that one until we go back to the head. So we're going to go in now with a 7. Now he's puffed up a little on the legs, it should all blend in nicely with a 7, even though we took it on a 10 before, because a dirty coat will always puff up to be, you know, as it's clean it gets a little bit, doesn't get longer, but you get what I mean. So I'm actually going to go in first with a 30 blade, and we're going to do these feet because they are super hairy. So I like to skim over the top first to get the worst of it off, and then start to work in the pads. I know, good boy. Not a fan here. Typical poodle with the fidgety feet. Don't think I've met any that aren't. Checking that we got it all. Good boy. And then I'm going to go with the nail clippers. See, he's got quite long nails, but he's also got quite long quicks. You often find that on little dogs because they don't wear down as easy. So I'm just going to take bit by bit on these ones until we see the little quick there. I know, good boy. You're doing good, my friend. Because on quite a few dogs you can tell where the quick is from the front. His are a little bit funny. I know, you've got to stay there though. Because the quick looks like it stops there, so it looks like you could go straight in, but it does actually carry down a little bit further on his nails. So we just want to make sure that we're not catching that one. So by taking little bit by little bit, he's just a little bit safer. So you can see the start of it coming through, but if you were to cut that from the outside, you would think you could take a little bit more, but you can't. Good boy, I know. Again, not digging into the toes or the pads. If you start proper digging into this bit here, you end up slicing the skin. If you hold it here, I find this is a perfect place to hold them because it keeps the foot still. You're not yanking it out, and he can still move his leg if he wants, but just giving you a bit more control. Because if they suddenly move their foot, you know, it just makes it a lot harder. Same with the back. I know. I've already got it. So I'm going to go back in with the 7. Making sure to pull that skin out of the way. And it's just going to take off those bits just to tidy it up. carefully around on these bits again. Some poodles obviously have the poodle feet, which is where you'd shave up the other way with a 15 or 30, just to give him that nice short foot look, but the owners don't want that on him, so they're just going to give him a nice round foot. Obviously best we can with the shortness of it. Careful down this bit, because if you dig right into there, obviously you can see he's so skinny there. You don't want to catch anything. So I use my little curves for doing the feet. But I mean, you can use any ones you want really. Just find it's a little bit easier. You want to put it between the feet. Make sure there's no long hair sitting there. Just scissoring any of those little straggly hairs to try and tidy it up. So it's never going to be a amazing looking groom when they're short, because it's not a good look, but you want to make it as tidy as possible. Sometimes holding that front foot up will just make them stand a little bit better. So like before he was pulling this foot away, but now he's letting me have a good look. So 10 on the hygiene area. I'm going to take it up a little bit more on him. Go back in under here. A few little mats we've missed, but we've not got too tight, so that's alright. So he's got a little scab looking thing, and he had that last time, but I'm just going to tell the owners and make sure they keep an eye on it. You want to be looking out for things on dogs if you're a groomer. It's part of our job. It's just keeping an eye on them. We know what's right for the dog normally, so if they've got a new lump, it's just worth mentioning it to the owners. They might already know, but just in case. Battery died, but what I was saying is I had a dog in a little while ago now, and she had a lump on her back leg that the owners hadn't noticed because of all the fur, and you don't very often check your own dog, you know, but turns out she had a tumour on her leg. I think they're still waiting for the results, but it's so important to keep your eye out for things that are unusual on a dog and let the owners know, because these things could go unnoticed, and it could be, I mean, it sounds dramatic, but it could be, you know, life and death situation. So it's always good to let the owners know, even if it's something that they're already aware of. It's that what if aspect of it. Good boy, Snowy. So you can see how much is just puffed up after the bath, after the dry. I know. Snowy. Stay, stay, stay. Gotta get out, I'm afraid, Snowy. got any questions about sort of how I groom, any questions about your own dog, anything like that, then, you know, feel free to pop them in the comments. I love reading all your comments, so it's, yeah, feel free. And like I said, these videos are quite new with the commentary. I know a lot of people are quite liking them, so if it's something that a lot of people are liking, then obviously I'll make more of these rather than just the music ones. So just tidying up this tail. I wasn't able to leave too much of a lion's tail, unfortunately, because it did still have quite a few mats, but leaving a little bit. You don't want to expose the tip of the tail too much, because, you know, you don't want it to get damaged by, you know, if they're going day to day, whacking it around because they're happy. Good boy. We go up in the armpits. Good boy. Straight into the hygiene with a 10. The hair is so much finer in the hygiene area, so you want to make sure to clip it all out, because that is normally what starts the mat first if you leave it long. So if you're not back brushing this coat and getting a nice even finish, and you'll find when it starts to grow out, it sort of, you can see patches growing out longer than others, so you want to make sure it's nice and even all over. It's basically starting afresh. Sometimes you just use the smaller clippers for the feet on the tiny dogs. I personally find it's not really any different, but it can be a bit easier sometimes. I know. Good boy. It doesn't actually have any mats in between his toes, which is where a lot of, you know, if the dogs are matted on their body, quite often they're matted between the toes and in their pads and that as well, but he's actually looking alright for that, so. As I said, you know, in previous videos, often the dog's back nails will be longer, often the dog's nails at the back will be shorter than the front nails, because they push off with their back nails when they run and when they walk, and, you know, when they first get up and that, so normally the front ones are longer. Occasionally if the dog's got, that's another sign, if the dog's got sort of longer nails at the back than they do at the front, or their right hand side is longer than the left hand side, sometimes that can sort of indicate that they've got a leg issue, or they walk funny, so they put more weight on one side than they do the other. So that's always what I look for as well when I'm grooming a dog, just in case. Good boy, I know. Good boy. So just lifting up that back foot, just making him sort of stay a bit more steady on his front. I'm going to go back in with a 10 in the armpit. You can see where you've got to be so careful, because if you were to go straight up like that, you know, you could cut the dog. So this one, I know you don't like it. I know. Brushing up the hair over the toes. See how much more that just brought up then. Certain dogs that have, you know, certain characteristics, and the poodles definitely carry the fidgety feet gene, which is why a lot of cockapoos are such, how do we say, nightmares? Not all the time, but you know, they carry that. I mean, they've got the cocker, which don't really like their feet being touched, and the poodle, so it doesn't really give them much hope. So, but like I said, if you get them used to it from when they're super young, then they learn to put up with it. Right then, my friend, do around this head, and then we can do your little top knot. You can see now, obviously I took that down at 10 before the bath, and you can see how it's blended nicely in now. So I'm going to get the normal slicker for this bit. There are a few little tangly bits, only a couple, and then the light at the back and that anyway. Good boy. Making sure to get all those knots out, because if you go through with a clipper attachment, then it's going to start catching on those knots. I'm going to go over with the clipper attachment first before doing the ears, because then I'll be able to know how much to blend in and how high up to blend in then. So it's still a little bit damp in places because you want to fan a bit around his head, but he's mostly dry. So I'm going to grab a 30. I always use a 30 under my clipper attachment. Some people use 10s. It doesn't really make a difference. I find, I've still got my arm on the dog, I find that it just leaves a nicer finish, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Some people say the 30s are too flimsy and they break a bit easier, but to go under the clipper attachments, but I find they're alright. So going over with a peach, and then we're going to see how that looks. Judge from there. We don't want to leave it too ridiculous with those short ears. If he had the longer ears, we could still leave him a proper poodle top knot, even though he's got the shorter body, but just because those little short ears, we don't want to leave it too ridiculous. Although some people do that as a style, they take the ears short. Does look nice on some dogs. Him, yeah, I'm not a fan. And then I'm going to brush back up. Oh, I'm going to chuck that on the floor first. Brush back up. And then we're going to go do the same thing again. You can see how much hair that's just brought off by back brushing. It's so important to back brush. Obviously that hair's not staying there. Just getting the shape in. Right, Now I'm going to go back in with the 7 on the ears, and then I'm going to 10 the inside, just to tidy it up. This just gets rid of all those straggly bits and just leaves it with a nice finish. Right, let's scissor the ears around. I'm going to put him back in here so he's not moving around too much. And I'm going to make sure you're holding the ear flap. If you're holding the ear flap, then you shouldn't be able to cut the actual ear. Working around. Good boy, Snowy. Let's turn it around when I get to the other side. It just makes it a little bit easier. Beautiful. Good boy, Snowy. Following it round right to the shape of the ear, because you don't want to leave a little, sometimes you can leave a little triangle bit if you don't follow it round to the ear, and then they look like they've got little pixie ears or elf ears. We don't want that. Do we, Snow? So I'm going to do the back of the head and the ears first. Good boy, just thinning it in. I'm going to go back in with the 7F at the back of the head in a minute. Just blending it in a little bit more, because obviously it has got those short ears. You want the round look, so you can see at the moment, obviously that's going to go. I could take it down now. So I'm going to thin from the corner of the eye back to the ear. So sort of the corner of the ear, really. And then hold the ear down. Go around. Like I said, this isn't a traditional poodle top knot. I mean, I do a few of my customers with this poodle top knot, but it's not the breed standard version of the top knot. So if you're looking for that, you're looking for it in the wrong place. Good boy. Super careful there of the lip. So this is a reverse 10 I'm doing now. Getting all that hair out. Holding the mouth shut so that it didn't stick his tongue out. Good boy. Super careful. Good boy. Still got a bit of tear staining, but you can see how much nicer that looks compared to what it was before. I know. So then back on the other side, exactly the same. Up, 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 up. Spin the eye. And I'm going to come in reverse as well. Make sure to get right under that eye. Otherwise they have a bit of a panda look to them. Pulling out all that hair. Oh, your teeth are manky. Up, 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 up. Up, 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 up. I know. So I'm going to pull all this forward. Doesn't like this bit, bless him. And I'm going to thin anything that goes in front of the eyes. Push it all back. Go back in here. Sort of like a, you want to take it in a little bit, so on a diagonal when you're thinning on this bit. By all means, I'm not the greatest poodle top knot cutter, but I find the owner likes this style, so. I know. Back in with the 7 to match the body. That's not your dad, I'm afraid. Sit. Good boy. Sit. Stay. So, to the occiput. And I'm going to come in and thin that round. Try and create a nice circular shape on the top of the head. As you can see, it's looking nice and round. So I'm going to come in and take off the beard now. That's always the last thing I do. So I don't want to have to come back in and then have to hold his face, which is makes him more wriggly because he doesn't like it very much. Good boy, I know. Right, you ready? Good boy. Holding that mouth shut so the tongue doesn't come out. Good boy. Look at that. You like a poodle now. Make sure we got all that hair from around there. That's lovely. Here he is, all finished and ready to go home. What a good boy you've been, my little friend. He's a good boy. But he is all ready. He's been super good, bless him. He must feel so much better. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.